Hello and welcome to another episode of Pull Yourself to Pieces, the podcast with Ray and Bill. I
I'm not.
am I
I'm not
am your
there yet.
host Ray,
I'm not there yet.
and wait,
I'm,
I hear Bill.
yeah, I'm behind a door. Okay. I was.
It sounds like he's behind the door.
Yeah.
Um
Wait. Yeah.
there
I
were
was. I was doing something. I
yeah.
wasn't really. But yeah, I wasn't really ready for this.
Oh, you weren't. Oh, I know
What?
what you would. Oh wait. I know what you were doing. Make sure you wash your hands when you're done.
That was
And you
before.
wipe
No, that
from
was earlier.
you wipe from front to back.
No, hold on a minute.
All right.
Uh,
I no, I was
I I didn't hear it flush.
I was I was
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
taking a shower.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what you call it? I
Well,
call it potty. What?
I do.
I call it going potty. Remember when we were kids?
I cup some water in my hands and then
Uh
I just kind of like throw it on myself.
huh.
Isn't that a shower?
Wow. Are you trying to save money? Well, like trying to, is your
Yeah.
water bill too
Yeah.
high?
It's true.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Well.
Well, actually, I was cold. I was tucking myself in.
Yeah. Well,
You know, you really
how
can't tuck yourself in, can you? You can only get so far.
No, you can't. You need somebody else to tuck yourself in
Yeah, but then
because
they're out there.
you could always tuck one side and then slide in the other side, but then you can't tuck that one side that you came in.
Wait,
You know,
what?
this is where having a significant other. Did you get any of that? This is where having a significant other really comes in handy, which leads us to one of our topic for today that I love to talk about: internet dating.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice
because
segue.
did you like that?
Yeah.
Because I am in the thick of it, boy. I got to tell you,
Yeah. You're really
And,
thick of it, aren't you?
I am so thick of it, Billy. I'm thick to my stomach.
You're thick and tired of it.
It's just horrible. I swear to God, I am a wacko magnet. I just seem to find all the wackos.
Well,
Um,
maybe like minds attract.
I, I never thought of it that way, but
Well,
you might have something there.
That could be.
Yeah, subconsciously, I'm me being wacko myself. They all just kind of gravitate towards me.
There you go.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But,
Maybe.
yeah. So,
So what's so
back
wacky?
in
Okay,
what?
go ahead. What's the wackiness?
The wackiness is women that start out mostly sane and normal, and over a very short period of time, you find out that they're just kind of nuts. Um, they'll break up with a person for the most minuscule, stupid reason you could come up with.
Hmm.
Somebody once accused me of lying about my height, and I thought, you can lie about your age and say, you're athletic and trim, and then, you show up and you're like 400 pounds. That would be a lying about something.
Right.
Lying about your height, you can't fool that. If you're 5'2" and you say you're 6'1" on your profile, and you show up and you look like a munchkin, your date's gonna go, hey, I wasn't
Wait.
expecting somebody so short.
So
That's
wait.
all.
So you
So
were you were you were being a victim of someone telling you that you lied and said, "Oh, you were
yes,
not your height."
that
What's
somebody broke up with me because they said they were disappointed because I lied about my height.
and you said you were like what?
5'10", which is what I am. I might be maybe 5'9.5" because I am older and we do shrink a little
Shrink
bit.
a
But
little bit, right?
if
So they thought you were lying about that. What they think you
I
are?
thought,
No,
I
I know
don't
you.
know.
You look like you're 5'10". I mean,
Thank you.
not faking it.
I'm thinking, boy, that is the lamest excuse to break up
Yeah.
with somebody if I ever
Yeah.
heard one.
Was
Just
this
tell me you don't.
person was this
What?
person tall?
No, she was average height, and come to think
Oh,
of it, she was a slightly, let's say, I'm going to put this nicely. Let's say she made too many trips to the buffet herself.
oh,
So when she says she's about average,
hmm.
and I met her, I didn't say anything.
About
you know,
average? She meant about
average.
average. Okay.
I got to tell
Now
you,
we
average today for a woman seems to be 50 pounds overweight.
well,
And
if a man is 40, 50 pounds overweight and he doesn't, think it's a problem, I guess they're
right,
thinking that it's not a problem for them too, I guess.
right.
So,
Yeah. Well, look, let's just say the older we get, the more we pack it on. And
right.
and COVID has been cruel to a lot of us, either stuck at home or um we just not as active because there was just no place to go for 2 years.
Well,
You know?
speaking of weight and height, did,
Yes.
have you ever been in the situation where you've found somebody that was, I've known a couple of people in my life who were really, really, really overweight, and they
Yes.
had surgery done and they lost the weight and
Yeah.
they got shorter. To me, they
Really?
looked shorter. I mean, it could
Well,
have been just, I think when you're heavier, I think you're taller.
maybe. Maybe it's just your perception.
I don't know.
Maybe it's your
You never noticed
perception.
that, huh?
I think we all kind of think that in a way when we see somebody that's very, very large, all of a sudden you see them again after a year or two and they've lost a lot of weight. Yeah, they seem to shrink in height too, but they don't. I
Are
mean,
you sure? I mean, their
humans, no,
feet
no,
get
we
bigger,
don't.
so couldn't they gain a
No,
couple
we don't.
inches?
No, that's not possible.
Really?
The only reason humans shrink is basically the
Cold
discs that
shower. Oh,
no, well, that too. The only reason we shrink as humans is the discs between each one of our vertebrae are like a sack filled with strawberry jam.
mm,
Okay. And there's
yeah.
something like 30 of them. And over time, they compress a little bit. So if you've got 30 sacks and you lose a 16th of an inch on each one, you've lost 2 inches of height over a span of, let's say, I don't know, 30 years.
Okay.
And that's how people get shorter as they get older.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually do.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And if you've been, if you're a power lifter and you've ended up doing a lot of squats and deadlifts, where the load that you're carrying at that time is basically pushing down on your vertebrae, you're going to get shorter faster than the rest of us. I can tell you
Oh,
that much.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Which is why, thankfully, I never did deadlifts or squats when I was training, because I didn't want that load on my spine, because that's where it ends up. It all pushes down on your
Good,
spine.
good point. That kind of makes a lot of sense. What'd you do in place of that?
Oh gosh, well, there are so many other exercises you can do in place of squats and deadlifts. Deadlifts are basically a useless exercise, completely useless. It's mostly for ego.
Really?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there are so many better exercises to do for your hamstrings than deadlifts.
Interesting.
And all deadlifts do is just ruin your lumbar, your back support. It just
Okay.
ruins it. It just
Yeah.
puts so much downforce on those vertebrae. It's ridiculous.
Well, we
And
went
a
off
good,
topic.
didn't we? We'll get back to with dating. We'll get back. Look, we only have 3 listeners, and they're bored already. So screw them. Anyway, so I was a columnist for a while, and I wrote a column back in November of 2009 because
Wow.
I was dating back then too. I was on Match.com, and I wrote a column about it, and it's tongue in cheek.
Okay.
Obviously, it's meant to be humorous,
I always love that
and
expression, tongue in cheek.
yeah, tongue in cheek.
Like, is your mouth closed when your tongue is in your cheek, or like is like a hole in your cheek and your tongue
I
is
don't
sticking
know.
out?
You know, one of us should look that up to figure out where that saying came from, how it originated. Tongue in cheek.
So bizarre. Anyway,
Yeah.
so you were saying.
All right. So I'm going to give you the highlights of it.
Okay.
And even though this is dated 10, 11, 13 years
13
ago,
years, yeah.
I mean, a lot of it basically still holds true today, or at least what I have found. Now, being the analytical type that I am, when I go on a dating site and I look at profiles, I mean, I study them
Right.
because I'm looking for, clues and hints and trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out what they're saying.
Wait, they're
because
talking in
because
code,
well, yeah.
speaking in
I mean,
tongues.
if you were not so much of that as if you were to read these profiles, and I read every word, they're cookie cutters of every other profile out there. Every woman says the exact same thing.
Well, in their defense, maybe they just don't know how to be original. You know, they're like, oh, you know, they this could be their last hope. This could be them being convinced from other friends of this, saying, "Oh, you
Yes,
got to go do this."
and
You know,
what's
so
interesting is if you read these profiles,
right,
what they're looking for is obviously what they never had in a man.
right.
Right. I
Right.
want a guy who's funny. I want a guy who makes me laugh. I want a guy who's affectionate, who hold my hand when we walk together. And I'm thinking, okay,
And
so
a lot
you
of
were the
us
guy.
are capable of those things, but to be capable of all of that 24/7 is impossible. That the person doesn't
Well,
exist.
well, I
Well,
don't know. You know, there are hopeless romantics among us, me being one of them. But yeah, I mean, if I found somebody that I was totally gaga over, yeah, I would be, the affectionate man in me would
there's
easily
always
come
going to
out.
be something though about somebody. That's why you have to have, you have to have the ability to,
Overlook the little stuff.
yes,
Yeah,
right.
of course. And we all have little stuff that needs to be overlooked. But
You're,
you know, when you have, hey, wait a minute, let me rephrase that. Um, the whole idea of finding somebody is having more on the checked box than the not checked box.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
And
But
that's
where you
that's what
compromise for the
right.
things that
But
are
that's where you compromise. But
right.
there are some things you just cannot compromise on. I mean, there are some things that are a must.
No, if you're
when it
looking
comes-
for a woman and it's a man, that's a little tough one
That's
to
a
compromise.
that's
that
a
one.
problem. I'm
That's a-
not going to be able to look that penis that's
You're
between his
looking,
legs.
you're looking for a woman and she's actually a fish. Yeah, that's a little bit of or a lamb. That's
Well,
unless it's a female lamb. But
when you say fish, I think of I think of Splash when she was a mermaid.
Oh.
So
all right, so
Yeah.
a mermaid might be interesting. Although a mermaid,
wouldn't it?
well, I
Yeah.
don't know if you look at the anatomy, I don't know.
Yeah,
You
it's
got
going to
the
be a
top.
trouble. It's
You
going to
only
be a
got the top.
problem.
Yeah, right.
You only have the top. Yeah.
You
basically.
get, that's it.
All right. So here we go.
Does a
This is-
man wait what's a
man-made?
merman a mermaid
A merman. Yeah.
a merman does a
Yeah.
merman like have a genitalia?
I don't know. You'd have to look at the creature from the Black Lagoon and take a really hard look at that guy, and that'll tell you.
He didn't have anything. That's why he was angry.
Is that it?
He didn't have anything. They show
But-
his full body in that movie.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're right. He was like a Ken doll. He had nothing going on there. Maybe that's why he was always chasing the women, because he was just so unsatisfied.
It's
I
not
don't know.
really fair, I mean, well,
What?
I mean, well, Barbie
not fair?
had,
Yeah, Barbie. Well,
Had a
she only
presence.
had the top. She only had the top. She had nothing going on at the bottom either.
what were they going to show?
I don't know. Well-
a forest.
Well, yeah. I mean, back when
Okay.
Barbie originated, it was kind of hairy down there. So yeah, that's you could have just colored in some hair. You didn't have to actually put some on there. You could have
Yeah,
just just like
Hair is like
pencil.
passe now. It's what, that's-
Hair is passe.
We
Yeah,
still
hair is
grow
now.
hair. It's like, how is it just? It's just like everybody.
Oh,
Everybody.
tell me
shaves,
about
no matter who
it's
you
horrible.
are. Man grooming just took off
And yeah.
for years now.
Yeah, I man groom. You have to,
Yeah,
otherwise,
so do I. I didn't admit that.
Yeah. All right. So this
Anyway,
is
getting back to topic.
all right. So this is called the do's and don'ts of internet dating.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing you have to you have to pick a site, and I have to tell you, they have multiplied. There are plenty to choose from.
That's a good thing, I
Um,
guess, now.
Yeah, right. There are so many sites, depending on who or what you're looking for, or what your age group is, or whether or not you're just looking to hook up, or you're looking for the love of your life, or another husband or wife. I mean, the sites, they're so varied,
Sure.
and they're so,
Yeah.
they will appeal to anybody's peccadillos at this point. Whatever you're looking for. Realize that some of these sites act as nothing more than a database, where you, the user, you do all the
A
work.
base. Get it? A date. Never
Oh,
mind.
stop. I mean, really, basically, the person searching, you do all the work. You navigate from profile to profile. You try to determine the winners from the losers, the
Right.
sane from the stark raving mad, the saints from the sinners. If a
But you're
challenge
going
is
by
what
a
you
profile. You haven't met the person. You haven't spent any time
right,
with them. I mean,
right, and you've got to hope that what they're writing is truthful.
yes.
That's all you have is somebody. You have somebody's words, and you have to take it on face value.
Yes.
I always write that I'm a PhD in rocket science.
Which is totally true.
We
right?
know that's not true. and that I'm a spitting image for George Clooney. But
Spitting.
but anyway, I digress. Anyway, so yeah, so you have to pick one.
Okay.
All right. So
Some more dues.
So the second thing that is very popular are the lies.
The what?
lies, nothing but lies.
Oh.
And you know what a lie is, right?
Yeah, it's that stuff you put in down the sink to try to clear it.
Yeah, no. Our mothers taught us about those. Remember how soap tasted?
Oh.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to bring back painful memories, but I had to make a point. Anyway, this is where you have to fill in information about yourself. And the questions are anything from age, body type, personality, likes, dislikes, etc.
Right.
Favorite movies, favorite songs, political affiliation, whether or not you're religious, whether you are a Wiccan, whether you belong to the Church of Satan. And
Right.
there's a lot of questions. I mean, whether you smoke or not.
Well, there should be.
Right. Because you want as much information as you can get to
Agreed.
make a decision, on whether you pursue this person or you just flip to the next profile.
Yeah, and to have compatibility.
Right.
Not that everybody should be exactly the same.
Cookie cutters, no.
No, no, but I'm saying you also shouldn't be. I don't think that perfectly alikes attract either. I'm a little bit of a believer in opposites attract. To an extent.
There was a Seinfeld episode that explored just that.
Really?
Jerry meets the girl of his dreams, and it's Janine Garofalo, and she is exactly like him. Sarcastic, thinks like him. And at first, the attraction was amazing. And all of a sudden, they realized that they were each other, and immediately they were turned off because, as they put it, I could never be with somebody like me. And I thought it was pretty funny and really right on the money.
It makes a good point.
Yeah, but this idea that opposites attract, I don't believe that for a second. No, opposites repel. I'm sorry. You have to have enough in common with a person so you have common ground, something to talk about. I'm 64.
Yes, too much in common. Like everything.
Too much in common. Right. There's no diversity at that point. There's nothing that's
no mystery,
challenging.
There's no challenge.
Right.
There's no
exactly.
Right.
So, again, when it comes to these, age is the easiest place to lie. And as I wrote, don't fall into this trap. If you type in 41, but you look like your grandmother, then there's going to be some explaining to do when you finally meet.
Yeah,
because
but what if you are 41 but you look like your grandmother?
Well,
that happens.
I've come across that too. Some people age well and some people do not age well, and smoking and drinking is usually a big contributing factor.
Yeah,
if you have
you've had a lot of stress and a lot of
stress, if you've been a sun worshiper, oh my God, there's any number of things that will age a person.
Yeah,
horribly.
Marriage,
but to lie about it, but to out and out lie about it is just wrong. It's just wrong because you're already starting out with somebody that's lying to you, and how good is that going to go over?
No, one lie leads to another lie, I'm a strong believer in that. Even if it's a small lie, they just keep getting bigger.
Yeah. The other thing is okay, so be honest about your likes and dislike choices because it'll ask you your likes. What do you like?
Yeah, that's just foolish if you don't.
Right. And if you click on the candles where it says likes and the only wax that can be found in your house is in your ears, well, then you're lying.
Okay.
Okay. because everybody likes candlelight and thunderstorms and oh my gosh, it's cookie cutter when you read the likes of what people like. They all like the same thing. And what's really interesting is how women pick chansons as a music that they enjoy. You know what chansons is?
No.
Neither did I. I had to look it up. And you and I know a lot about the music business. I had to look up what chansons is.
Well, let's take our chances and
Chansons,
tell me.
chansons is specifically French music.
What?
A type of French music.
I guess worldly known.
Not really,
Yeah.
but yet I look at these profiles and 9 out of 10 of them they pick chansons as a music that they enjoy, right up there with, disco and gospel and classical and country and western. I see chansons all the time, and I know that they're lying because if I had to look it up, God knows none of these women knew what chansons music is.
Right. You're
And
really
again-
taking your chances with them.
You're taking bad pun, Bill. Anyway, so
What does it sound like, Ray? Chansons.
I don't know, but I know I can find. I know you can find some on
I'm free
YouTube
to.
and listen to it.
All right.
It's
I'm gonna have to do that.
probably it's probably the French version of what Irish music sounds like. The old Celtic music from
Oh.
Ireland. I'm sure
Yeah,
the
some
French
ki-
music,
like traditional French music.
Yes,
Not that I know
very,
what that
very
is, but
very traditional. Yes,
Okay.
very traditional French music. Hence the and
this
if you look
comes up a
the word-
lot, huh? You find this?
Oh
on
my!
a lot
I
of
see it all
profiles.
the time. It's
Wow.
hysterical.
Wow.
Chansons, right?
Who
Uh-huh. Who knew?
knew? Not even like
All right.
calypso, reggae.
You don't see that very often.
All right. Well,
I like calypso and reggae music. I actually do.
yeah.
I mean, I grew up with calypso music. Mom was a big Harry Belafonte fan.
Mom was
I knew.
very diverse. We've talked about this. Mom was very
Yeah,
diverse
she was
musically.
extremely diverse.
That was the one great thing that she gave us. And recently, you put a post on Twitter that said that you had a great role model for being a gentleman, and I'm guessing that was our father.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, we could definitely say we got those two things from our parents. Definitely.
That's it. That's
Definitely.
about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's what we.
I will not go into it. Anyway,
Okay. Anyways, go
So-
ahead. Back to the.
so the
do's and
third thing,
don'ts.
all right. So the third thing is what I wrote is don't spill the beans, which means it's just not necessary to write every single nuance about yourself, right? If you
Right,
write
right. Leave
everything
some
in your
mystery.
profile,
Leave some.
right, leave something to the imagination.
Sure.
Be a little mysterious,
Right.
not Unabomber mysterious, but you leave something for later conversation.
Okay.
Otherwise, what are you going to talk about? You know what I
Right,
mean?
Right. Right.
If you write everything about yourself, well, then when you first meet for that cup of coffee, what are you going to talk about?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's okay to have a little awkward silence too. That's the other thing.
Oh.
That's
boy.
how you know you're comfortable with somebody. If all of a sudden you have a few moments of awkward silence and you're okay with it, it says a lot about the person you're seeing, you're with.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're comfortable. I've always thought awkward silence means that you're comfortable with this
Oh,
person.
really?
Yes. To me, that's what that means.
Well, with somebody I know for a while, someone I've been with for a while, someone I've
No.
been with for
No, there's okay to have
Really?
silence between two people that have just met.
just met.
I mean,
huh?
if you yes, just met, right? I mean, if you sit there babbling on about yourself for hour and hour and hour, then sounding like a machine, realize that that other person is thinking, "Oh my God, am I going to have to put up with this every day? Does this person ever shut up?"
Gotcha.
But if you can sit there and have an awkward silence between each other, that says a lot about being comfortable with that person. Anyway, that's the way an extreme extrovert, moi, looks at it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of awkward silence in my life.
And we might talk about that soon. Anyway. All right. So, number 4, I wrote fools rush in. Um, so does anybody out there know the difference between love and infatuation?
Oh, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah. So love and
Okay.
infatuation. A lot of times you'll spend quite a few days texting back and forth before you actually get on the phone with somebody on these dating sites, and you probably infatuated with that person,
Okay.
because that's the first thing that happens. You're infatuated with a person. You don't love them yet, but you may grow fond of them in a very short time because you end up talking a lot about yourself. You find out a lot about the other person. There's a bond that slowly builds, and the more you find out about them that you realize you like or have in common, the closer you get.
Makes
And
sense.
what
Yeah.
yeah, and then what happens is, and like I wrote, chatting on the phone, emails, flirting a little bit and a fondness develops. But finally, the night of the big date comes, and you meet, and after 3 minutes, you realize that there's no chemistry, and then sadly, you end up both going home feeling lonely and depressed.
Right.
And a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on that initial meeting and whether or not there's chemistry. And chemistry is obviously different for every person and very personal to them. We don't know, nobody really knows what makes a person gravitate towards another person, just
Right.
by
Right.
looking at them. Nobody knows. And it definitely comes in waves or stages. I mean, you could be in somebody's presence and like them immediately, and over time grow to love them and become in love with them. Or you could meet somebody that you never met before, and right out of the gate, your heart starts to beat, and you're sweating, and you realize, oh my God, this is the person I've been looking for all my life. But nobody knows what triggers this or how this works.
Sure.
The the mechanisms of falling in love with somebody. And
Right.
so I write about, don't be surprised if you finally meet and there's no chemistry. And like I wrote, you go home feeling lonely and depressed because you're like, rats, there goes another one. Back to the drawing board,
Right.
back to it. Um, Here's another thing to realize about dating. It's a numbers game. And what I mean by that is, I wrote, the odds that you'll meet Ms. or Mr. Right on the first date are like me getting a guest shot on Oprah. I was always hoping to get on Oprah, but it never happened.
Right.
You basically have to go on a lot of dates before you hit the jackpot, because the odds that two people that meet out of the blue and actually connect, I think, are slim to none. I think if you find somebody that you can love and love you, I think it's like winning the lotto, because there are
I
so many
agree.
things. There are
Agree.
so many wrenches to be thrown in the works that it's
Right.
amazing that we hook up at all.
Right.
And I
Plus,
think
is there a chance that either both parties on a first date are going to be kind of not exactly genuine, a little forced, a little, maybe they could be, just not comfortable with the situation, you know?
I think people force it every day because they're tired of being alone, and they try and force feelings that have to come naturally. You can't force being in love with somebody. You just can't.
Right.
And you can't force them to be in love with you. But so many people, as you get older, settle. You just settle because you think, you know what, being with somebody is better than being with nobody. And all settling
Is
does
that so
is,
bad?
after, it's not so bad being with somebody, but if you're truly not happy with that person and you constantly long for someone else, but you're okay with their company, well, then you're fooling yourself because you're never truly going to be happy. And all you're doing is lying to the other person, because while you're with them, you keep thinking, boy, there's got to be somebody better out there. But right now, I've got so and so.
Yeah, but with
Look, it all
the
depends.
odds, most likely there isn't someone better out there.
Well, exactly right, which is why I wrote that you got to go on a lot of dates before you hit the jackpot.
Right.
And the worst thing you could do is settle.
It's kind of
But
like
there are a
looking
lot of
for a job. You go on lots and lots of interviews because you
yes,
can't. It's just
exactly right.
I mean,
know?
isn't it kind of like an interview, the dating thing? How is it
Of
not?
course, it is the ultimate interview because you're thinking
It's just
about
that it's
spending
both sided. It's not like one is the the hiring and the other one is the
right,
the
right.
potential.
You're both the employer at that one.
Right.
You're both the employer. You're
I
checking.
I wonder. You made me just think about something that's kind of
Yeah.
unique. I wonder what it would be like to have a matchmaker. No, to have like a mediator. Wonder what that would be like to have a mediator for a date. Like that.
That
It's
again,
almost like
that
the referee, at a fight.
yeah, but again, that only goes so far. The ultimate decision comes when you finally meet that person face to face, and you spend 5 minutes sitting across from them.
No, I'm saying at
And-
that date, have a mediator.
Oh, at the date, have a mediator. That's interesting.
Interesting, right?
Like, well, it's called a wingman, right? Don't we have that? Don't we have
Yeah,
that now?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what that evolved into. Maybe matchmaking evolved into the wing, the wing guy or gal.
I'm saying more like when you have those debates, and you see
Oh.
there's the mediator and you have,
Wow.
the person who.
That's interesting.
Oh, really?
I could be the mediator. That would be funny. I'd love to be the mediator. So Bob, tell me what you think about Susan's breasts. Are they big enough for you? Do they look natural? I mean, I imagine me being the mediator.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's your next job. Hey, did you ever see
No, but-
Hitch with Will Smith?
I did.
mean,
I did see Hitch with Will Smith.
He
That
wasn't
was-
there for the date, but he was
Right.
trying to get,
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
to
his
hook
friend.
up. He was
Yes.
working on hookups. But I mean, I'm
Yes.
saying like really be there on a date. Like really, not the third
Wow.
wheel, but although
Right.
it ended up being like that, it's easily could be
Yeah.
very funny because,
Yes.
you go to the movies and, where is this person sitting in between the two?
He's sitting between the two of them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That would make a great plot for a movie. That's something. Maybe that'll be my next short story. I'll write that one.
All right. There you go. How much
All right,
more on
so-
this list?
That's
aging you.
basically it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
pretty much.
All right.
That's pretty much it.
All right.
Well,
I will say that
yes.
I've always been scared of dates. I've always been petrified of having to start up conversations with someone who I don't know.
Really.
Yeah.
So, and I just recently found this out about you,
Yeah.
and I know you for 59 years.
Well, we can take a break. We've been talking for a half
Yes.
hour. We can come back and
Yeah.
talk about that.
Let's do that.
All right. We'll take
Let's
a quick
do
break.
just that.
And we'll be right back after this. This is Bill, and you're listening to Pull Yourself to Pieces, the podcast, hosted on Anchor. You never heard of Anchor? Anchor by Spotify is a podcast host platform, and it's an easy way to make a podcast. We picked Anchor because they have everything we needed all in one place. You can record and edit a podcast from your computer or even right from your phone. Then you can have your podcast distributed easily to multiple platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and much more. And did I mention it's free? That's right. Anchor is free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, and we're back with Pull Yourself to Pieces. Ray and Bill here, and we were discussing some uncomfortableness in dating, which kind of
Yes.
led to a reminder that I'm very uncomfortable with the thought of dating because, as a surprise to my brother of all these years, that I'm introverted.
I had no idea.
How is that possible? You've known
I
me for
again,
59 years.
I had no idea that you were an introvert.
Well,
I
let's
just
think
thought-
about something first of all. All right.
Yeah.
Let's think about this.
Yeah.
We're 5 years apart.
Right.
We had different friends.
Yes.
We moved from our home when I was 8 and you were 13.
Yes.
Could be difficult ages for both both people at those ages. Not that I think any age is easy for anybody from 16 years and younger. Moving to a new house, a new town, whatever.
Well,
Can't be easy for anybody. you know.
Well, what helped for me was we moved right across the street from our first cousin. So immediately I had I had a support system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and
You know,
she's
we
your age, and her
right,
sister was closer to your age. I was
right,
younger.
right.
Um,
So I made the transition very easily.
right, and that was at 13, and I was 8.
Right,
Now,
right.
now for the next 5 years, we were not really close. You had your series of
My
friends.
problems.
I
I
had
had
my I had there really it's odd that really wasn't anybody on our block that was kind of in your age group. It was really more closer to my age, so
yes.
I kind of got along. I wouldn't even say I really bonded so incredibly great, but that's somewhat of a bond, I guess, with the kids that were on my block, and that
Yeah.
kind of became my friends, right? It's kind of, I'll say, street friends. They weren't lifelong friends. They definitely weren't. But
As people turn out to be not lifelong friends, as we have found out.
yeah. But anyway, so then then 5 years go by. I'm 13. You're 18. You moved out.
Yes.
So, obviously there's again, how much we weren't close. We weren't really friends. We didn't really know that much. I mean, so if
We got
you
close a
not
year
knowing
later.
that I was introverted at that time, it could
Right.
make
Still had
sense.
no idea. Right. I still had no idea.
Right. We might have talked about it on the show. I think we've talked about it that like a year or two later, I was
A
shooting
year later.
a film
Right.
and you came by and bam, we ended up working on the film with me and we realized, we have the
Hey,
possibility of a relationship here.
my best friend. Yeah. Yeah.
So
A relationship.
we did it. And 3
Yes.
years later, I was your best man at your wedding.
Yes.
And, but now that was 19.
79.
Okay.
I
So
got married in
79.
I got married in 79.
And now for the next quite a bit of years, 13 years before you moved from New York and I stayed, 13 years, that's a lot of years that, we were close. And yeah,
We did a lot
was,
together, Bill.
we
I mean,
did.
think about
We did.
what we did. We had a DJ business between
know.
you and I that we
And
would
then
go
we
out and
had
do
your
parties.
furniture business that I was part of
Right.
with you.
Yes, you worked for
And
me.
then,
I mean,
and then we both
yeah.
kind of did our own thing.
We
and
lived
then-
we lived in the same house for a while. Remember when Mom
Right.
and Dad moved out?
Right. Well, but we weren't in the same like apartment part. You were like
No.
had the top half of the house. I had the bottom
Yes.
of the house. But you're right.
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 And again, I
then-
still didn't know you were an introvert.
I know. And
Still.
then 30 years ago, you
Yeah.
moved to Virginia.
Right. Yes.
And it was never the same. I cried. No. And you moved. And of course, yeah, we see each other on holidays. We see each other once a year, maybe twice a year over the 30 years, I guess. Right.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's not like, really living together. You and I haven't lived together since those times when we were living in the house together over
Right.
30 years ago.
Yes.
Right.
Well over 30 years to go.
I will say that, well, to give some history on my introvertness, because you and I are just the complete opposites when it comes to that.
And again, I had
No.
no idea.
Yeah.
I thought we had more in common than we don't.
What's funny, like the actual definition, if you look it up, of an introverted person, is it's someone, they say, who feels comfortable kind of focusing on their own thoughts rather than like things that are happening outside. That's not exactly how I feel. All right. My introvertedness is more like a shyness.
Gotcha.
Okay. And awkwardness. I'm awkward. I feel awkward and I feel shy. I've always have, in, like I said, with
Dating.
domineering people. No, not just, well, before we even get into just women, I mean, also men
Oh.
too. I can be very intimidated. So I'll clam up. I'll be quieter, whether it's a man or a woman. Yes. For dating. Yes. I'm very, I've been and still am very shy when it comes to talking to certain people. Yes. Mainly of the opposite sex. I'm not comfortable in crowds. I'm not comfortable getting up in front of crowds. I'm not comfortable in getting up in front of a microphone where people can
I'm
see me.
laughing. I'm laughing because I'm just the exact opposite.
I know. Right. Now, obviously, like you said, you weren't aware of this.
No.
I was aware that you were not like that. I mean,
Well, that's
obviously.
obvious. That's obvious. Right. I'm an extreme extrovert.
What's an extreme extrovert?
I am an extreme extrovert. Let's just say if I'm somewhere and there's a stage, I want to be on it. That's the only way to describe me.
Well, you know what? I think it has a lot to do with your inner confidence. And if you're comfortable in your skin, and obviously you've been for a very long time.
Since I'm a small child.
Why is that?
It all comes from my mother. You know,
really?
In between the beatings that she gave me for no apparent reason, it was always this. Oh, my son, you're so handsome. Oh, my son, you're such a good boy. Oh, my son, you're so smart. I heard this growing up as a kid for years. In between,
and you really
beatings.
believed you were smart and handsome. No.
Well, I was, but that's besides the point. No. And so when you've got this support system coming from one of your parents, because our father never spoke, I actually think he was mute. I'm not sure. I used to look in his mouth and look for a tongue when he was sleeping. Anyway, our father never spoke.
Oh, he snored, so he had a tongue.
Mom was very vocal about, how great I was as a person. So you talk about mixed messages. She used to beat the crap out of me, but on the other hand, tell me how smart I was and how handsome I was. So how do you not have this amazing confidence as a kid when your mother tells you all this? I mean, she filled my head. She literally filled my head.
Well, somewhere, in those early years, I was shy, and maybe I didn't like confrontation. Maybe I didn't like.
Well, nobody likes confrontation.
Maybe I heard the screaming and yelling that she was doing at you, and I crawled into a shell.
It's a possibility.
Then, I pretty young, like 4 or 5 years old. I had a next door neighbor who was a bully who used to beat on me, and
I remember
that kind of happened continuously. So again, if you're quiet, you're shy, and I wasn't really that small. I've always been kind of average height. Then I was actually tall.
Yes.
But thin. Always thin. And not athletic.
Like our father.
That's another thing too. Not being athletic, not social. Okay. So if you're not social, you can easily fall into being shy and quiet and introverted. And that went on for years. And it really it metamorphosed into a totally different thing pretty much when you and I started getting close.
Oh, I rubbed off on you a little bit?
No, it was more of like, no, don't flatter yourself.
All right,
listen, I will say that at the time we started getting together, you were into weightlifting, and starting about 15 years old, I started to do it. And
yes, I remember. Yeah, we trained
by
together.
16, I had some shape to me now. I had some arms. And I recently saw an old picture of me at 16. And all of a sudden, the bullies stopped.
Amazing.
Before that, I had maybe 3, if you want to call them fights, and I lost them all because I didn't know how to fight. Again, I never really good at confrontations.
Yeah.
And so working out started to ward off the
gave
bullies.
You some confidence. Yeah.
And it gave me some confidence to the point where at 18 years old, just about 18 years old, about 17 and a half, let's say, my best friend at the time, he got an invitation to go to the school. Our school had a radio station, and took me along as an invite, and we both went for at the time you had to have a radio license. I don't think that exists anymore. We got our radio licenses, and we started doing radio shows on the radio. And
I remember.
I like that. Now
I remember listening.
Just like now, it's easy for me to get in front of the microphone. If we were in front of a big giant crowd, it would be a lot harder.
Wow.
But I started to break out of my shell by being able to get in front of the microphone, because you're not
Yeah.
seeing anybody. All you're seeing is a couple of walls, maybe somebody else on the other side. And
Yeah.
we spun records and we spoke, or I did news.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of shows. I did it for a couple of years, and it led to
Yes.
me being a disc jockey.
Yes,
Now,
I remember.
my disc jockeying, working in clubs and working parties, was never the real extroverted type of disc jockey. It was always more of the mechanical guy, the engineering type of guy. Even when I worked in
Yeah.
clubs worked out good for me because I didn't really have to talk.
Right.
But I was never really that great at doing the voiceover stuff that I had to do for parties. I mean, here they are coming down the aisle.
Right.
It just always
Right.
seemed kind of like a little tough for me, and if I didn't have a script, it was hard for me to kind of just
Yeah.
go off the cuff and just be comfortable with doing that. And that was what they used to call like an MC. It was like the MC
Right.
who could do that, which was more your type. And then there
That was
the
me.
guy, me, who was more spinning the records. And I did it for years, and then but nothing really changed. I could I have done help by going to support groups for people who are introverted? Sure, maybe. Could I have gotten help by maybe going to see a therapist, an analyst, or somebody who could have maybe gone back and say like, well, why are you shy? Maybe, possibly, sure. I don't know, maybe. Unfortunately, introverted people miss out on a lot of things.
I never thought of it that way.
We miss
Again,
out on a lot of opportunities because we may not, jump out there and say, oh, I'll do it. I'll take the lead. A lot of times
Yeah.
we're not going to be leaders. I'm not saying that we're followers either, because that happens too, but I've never been a follower. I've always been my own person.
Yes.
I don't want to say a
And
leader, but I can lead
vouch for-
people. I can lead people, but I usually am not that great of a leader. And to be which I thought was the career I wanted to go, and that be a film director, you have to be a great leader. And it wasn't until a couple of years after I quit film school that I realized that I don't have the personality for this. You really can't stay an introvert and be a film director.
Wow.
It
Again,
wasn't going to work.
Something I never connected the dots on that one.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work. And you can't just light switch this. The same way you can't just pretend to be an introvert. You could watch some of us and look at some videos and try to
Right.
do it. But I mean, you can act it. You
I could act it,
for a
but I
little
could
while.
never really feel it.
Right.
Right. I could act it, but I could
And
never
let me
really
tell
feel
you
it.
that. Let me tell you something. It may not be, it would never be most likely that any extroverted person is going to want to switch and be in our shoes for a week, because it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to see what it's like. It's not something you're really going to aspire to. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you, most of us introverts would love to be able to get up in front of a crowd and sing, or get up in front of a crowd and say a speech, or get up in
Yeah.
front of a room and say, I'm going to take this lead and I'm going to lead this meeting and be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Most of us, I know I speak for most of us, we would love to be able to do that. That's like, being the hero to us.
Really? Wow.
It's funny that you and I had a conversation recently about writers, and you were like, oh, you've done writing. You've been like, kind of like a part-time writer in a way. And you're like, and I said, yeah, a lot of writers are introverted. And you're like, well, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, well, it doesn't mean that it's part of the job, but a lot of times, artists and writers and people that are into that kind of a thing, they tend to be more shy. They're more introverted. And this is where they're going to be able to
Express themselves.
Thank you.
They'll be able to express themselves.
Pretty much. So anybody out there who's not sure if they're an introvert, kind of like, just look inside. I mean, you should be able to tell. I mean, I think, if you are. I mean, I always feel like it's one or the other. You agree or no?
Yeah,
well,
no,
actually, you
I
may
don't.
not agree, because if you thought, did you think I was extroverted?
I actually never thought about it.
Right, because you
I'm-
obviously must know that not everybody's extroverted. So there's odd people that are
Well,
introverted.
this is something that's really just come to my attention over the last few months. The difference between introverted and I haven't known too many introverted people in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, I think about our relatives and how well, some of them are dead now, but I mean, I think of my cousins and how extroverted most of our family, and I mean going all the way out to second cousins, are extroverts. We don't
Are you
have
so
a lot
sure
of
of that?
I think so. I could be
You know
wrong.
what? You could be fooled. And I'll say this because from personal experience, we also know how to act extroverted. Okay, but it's an act.
Wow.
And you know, we can feel very comfortable with people that we know and we care about and we're familiar with, and we'll be a lot more extroverted. We'll be a lot more talkative. We won't be as shy.
Gotcha.
You know,
Right.
give me a one-on-one with someone I know, and I'm good. I'm pretty good. Okay, put me in a room with 3 or 4 people, it's probably going to be a problem.
Wow.
And now we're also saying that none of this involves any alcohol or drugs or anything,
No,
because
no, not at all.
obviously that definitely,
That
yeah.
changes
Anytime
things.
I would, which I, yeah,
That really changes things.
oh yeah, you need to speak too much.
So
much
imagine
of your
me with some alcohol.
Oh
I-
God,
I- how I start out already an extreme extrovert.
right?
So basically,
so-
you take after our father.
Yeah, I always saw our dad as being quiet.
Oh, he was. He was a very quiet
Shy?
man.
Not shy, but quiet.
Yes.
So if that's part of introverted, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, he would open up. He would open up at parties, and we had a lot of parties in Queens when we were growing up. There was a lot of alcohol. There was a lot of parties, a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles. And I got to tell you, the Italians, they know how to party. And I remember our father would open up when all the relatives were there, and he probably had a couple of beers in him. He'd be the life of the party. But without that catalyst, he was a very quiet man.
yeah,
Very, very quiet, very reserved.
yeah.
Our mother, on the other hand, was the complete opposite.
Right,
Mom was the life of the party. You couldn't shut her up.
definitely.
And very young, when she was in her late teens, she sang lead for a jazz and standards band. So and she had a voice, and so she was not afraid to get up there and sing, and she's always been the life of the party. And I guess I take after her.
Oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to do that. Get in front of people, especially their strangers. Being a shy person, I'm afraid to basically to interact with people I don't know.
Wow.
You get comfortable. Yeah, that's being shy. It could also be a form of being introverted. Introverted really, I think, is more of you want to be alone. That's not necessarily true. I don't really want to be alone. I don't really, aspire to be alone. That's not something I if that's a true introvert, then I'm sort of, close to it. I feel like maybe you're like born a certain way, so you're going to be shy. Okay, you're going to be quiet.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of too young to really be classified as an introvert yet. I think that kind of terminology is going to be as you get a little bit older. I think even with extrovert, you're not born extroverted, okay? I just think that you might be a little bit more talkative, let's say, okay? You're comfortable with interacting with others, okay? You're good at that. So the opposite is shy. And then as you get older, you're gonna most likely have no problem having extroverted characteristics, traits, where
All right,
a shy
so-
person, yeah.
So you want to talk about the other side of the coin?
Yeah.
All right. So here's an idea of how extroverted I am.
Well, what do you think? Well, you already think that we already established that you're probably extroverted because of the upbringing.
Right. But here are some examples of how extroverted I am. So, let me think. In 2004,
Yeah.
I auditioned to be the lead singer for a jazz and standards band because I'd been singing since I was 2. And I got the
Right.
part, and I sang with this band. And
Right.
we did a couple of different venues. And again, I have no problem because I can actually sing. Now, if, singers who can't sing, I think they're going to have a big problem getting up on stage because you've got to be sure of yourself. You don't want to make a fool of yourself. And I've always been able to carry a tune. Plus, I know all the songs. I grew up with all the songs. So I was the lead singer for a band. Well, I ended up taking my first cruise on a ship. In 2004, I was divorced and I was alone, single. And I said, I'm going to take a cruise. So the cruise left out of Port Canaveral in Florida. I drove. I get on the boat. And you enter the boat in the middle of the boat,
Right.
or the ship, or whatever you want to call it. And when you get on there is a giant atrium. The room is huge, and you can look up, and there's glass above you. It's like you're in a giant terrarium. Okay. And the place is huge, and there's this huge big bar there. There's all kinds of tropical fruit laid out for people to eat as they come in. It's like a greeting. There's flowers everywhere. And again, the place is huge. Imagine just a big box store. I mean, because the boat is huge. And so I show up, and I'm one of the
Floating
first
mall.
people. Yeah, it's big, right? Think of the Mall of America. That's how big this boat is. And it's just one small part of it because the boat's tremendous. So I was like one of the first people on the boat. So I'm standing and I'm watching people come in because I'm a people watcher. That's what I do. So I'm watching these people come in, and I was alone. I wasn't able to bring anybody. So I'm watching all these couples come in and people with kids. And I'm standing by the bar, and I'm not a big drinker. So I'm just watching people come in. And I'm looking around, and I'm watching these people. And now the place is starting to fill up. And people are realizing, hey, there's a bar here and there's food here. So now they start gravitating towards where I'm standing. And the place is filling up because these people are piling in. And there's going to be 1,500 people on this boat.
Wow.
At least that many.
Oh my
So they're
God.
piling in. I notice a big baby grand piano next to the bar. So I walk over to the piano because it's calling to me. So I'm standing there by the piano. And lo and behold, this man walks up to the piano, and he's got in his hand a bunch of folders. It's sheet music. He's the piano player. And he's basically going to provide some music for the people as they come in. So I'm standing right there. He comes and he sits down and he looks at me. I look at him. I go, "You're the piano player." He goes, "I am." I go, "Let me see what you got." So he looks at me strange and he hands me the folders. So I start thumbing through the music he has, and I'm pulling out songs. I go, "This one." I go, "This one." I'm pulling out, Just the Way You Are.
So he
by
was
Billy
just
Joel.
going to play the music.
Wait, don't jump the gun. So I'm like, all right, this one. He's looking at me strange. I go, I pull out 10 songs and I go, "Play these." And I just looked at him and I said, "Trust me." Sure enough, he starts playing. I start singing. I don't need a microphone because I can project. Now all of a sudden,
Boy, can you.
all of a sudden, people heads start to turn because, oh, look, entertainment. So now people are coming in, they're starting to come towards the piano. I'm halfway through, Your Song by Elton John, and, I'm rocking it. And we finish. There's no applause. I didn't expect it. And he goes into the next song. And I don't need the words. I know the words. And singing song number 2. And I'm loving it because this guy can play and I can sing. Now the people are starting to really come. They're starting to form a circle. I finish the second song and there's a little bit of applause. And I'm going, oh, this is great. My cruise is starting out great. We end up doing 10 songs. By the time I'm done, the place is like, it's roaring.
Wow.
And the guy just looks at me. He just looks at me and is like, he goes, "Nobody's ever sang with me before."
Right.
I said, I'll probably catch up with you again sometime on the boat. Don't worry about it. And away I went. And I realized as I walked off, people must have thought, oh, isn't that nice? There was a singer and a piano player to meet us. But of course, I'm not part of the ship.
Right.
I'm not employed by them.
Right.
It's just something I do. And
Right.
off I went to explore the rest of the boat.
Right.
So if that's the indication of the extreme extrovert I am, that's
Sure.
it. I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah.
But again, you've
Do
got
you
What?
seek like some kind of satisfaction in doing something like that, or it's just
Oh,
curiosity?
I
See what you can get away with.
no, I just enjoy entertaining. I like to
Entertaining.
entertain people. Yes, I
You
like to
entertain
entertain.
people. Yeah, I think of our old friend Fred. Fred liked to make people laugh. I think he. Liked,
Oh my gosh, and
liked
he
that
was
too.
so good at it.
He was
He
really
was-
good at it.
He was really good at it.
It's a shame that we don't really have a relationship, either one of us, with him, because I do miss Fred.
I do
That
too.
Fred. That Fred.
Yes,
That Fred.
that Fred.
'Cause
That Fred.
I don't
yes.
know. I don't know who Fred is. It's been so many years. He could be someone
Yeah.
so different.
Yeah, he was an extrovert too.
Absolutely.
And-
Extroverted
you were-
people. You guys both had that same talkative,
Yes.
energetic, okay,
Yes.
outgoing. That's
Yes.
extrovert. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Confident.
That-
confidence.
That's why.
or
That's
at
why
least
he
if it
and I
wasn't
got
real
a-
confidence, you sure looked like you had confidence.
No, no. Fred was confident. Definitely, Fred was. He was very confident. He was a confident man.
Yeah.
And I think
My
I think-
confidence has never been on the same level. Mine's like peaks and valleys. It's been my whole life that way. And I got to admit, when you're having a peak of confidence, you
Yeah.
can be a little more talkative, a little more outgoing, a little more, sociable.
you open up more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have done pretty okay selling myself. And I don't mean sexually, that
I get it. No,
probably
I know
say.
what you're talking about.
But
Good.
yeah, I mean
Good.
interviews, I'm thinking of any time I've gone for different jobs, I know I did a good job of the interview,
Yeah.
surprisingly for somebody who is introverted, shy.
Yeah.
Because I guess I was confident in my own abilities, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it goes. It's kind of like, hate to say it, but in a way, us shy people are quiet. We kind of like go through life in a bubble. So it comes back to that thing I said to you about why I feel like we miss things sometimes. We miss some opportunities. You live in a bubble, you're going to miss them.
Yeah.
Sadly, we're talking about personality. We're talking about emotional. We're talking about, mentally, introvertedness or extrovertedness. But what's funny is as you get older, you could actually take on some of those traits, and it may not be because it was the way you were. For example, I'm saying that because, as I've gotten older, I'm having more and more problems with my hearing. And that could be a whole nother discussion. I'd like to talk about that one day, about the whole hearing and the hearing industry when it comes to the medical industry and hearing.
Okay,
But,
that'll be a show.
Yeah, I think that as you lose your hearing, you're going to become more shy, more quiet, and you're going to miss things. And what's funny, though, on the opposite end, some people might go the opposite way. as you start to lose your hearing, you might actually become, because you can't hear anybody, you might become more vocal, more louder, more assertive.
Yeah.
So, who knows which way it might go?
I think you might find this interesting.
Okay.
For how many times I've been in front of an audience, whether singing or doing stand-up or the wacky things that I do, like in certain places, like I've told some of the stories of the things that I
Right,
do.
yeah.
People used to ask me, "Oh, don't you have stage fright? I could never get up. Aren't you afraid?" And my immediate answer is, "No, I'd have never experienced stage fright. I don't know what that feels like. If there's a stage, I want to be on it. I'm more comfortable on the stage than looking at it."
So you've never had any of those feelings of being
Never.
introverted?
No fear. No,
Right.
and no fear.
Right.
I don't know what that feels like. Like I said, I will jump up on a stage no matter how big, how many people are there. There could be two drunks in a karaoke bar, and I've done that too. I've sung karaoke to two drunks.
Maybe I
Or
will not
I've
go out
got-
with you. I'm going to be really embarrassed.
Or I've gotten up in front of hundreds and, belted out Beyond the Sea by Bobby Darin. It doesn't matter. I don't experience stage fright ever. I don't know what that
Okay.
feels like.
Okay.
So, again, I guess you have to go into it with a certain amount of confidence. And I think it all stems from that. It all depends on how much confidence you have and where that confidence comes from.
Gotcha.
How far back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So you want to take a break? Are we going to go right into some
No,
loony
let's
laws?
take a break and
right.
we'll come back. We haven't. Yeah, loony laws. I heard you say that.
Yeah.
Loony laws. I'm not
Looking
where
forward
we're
to
up
that. I love
to.
loony laws.
We did what, Louisiana last? Let's see what the next state is right after this.
Okay.
It's time for Loony Laws of the Land.
Welcome to another edition of Loony Laws of the Land, where we pick a state and we talk about some really weird, apparently still existing laws.
That's right. Make that point, Bill.
We're going to go to Maine. We're going up
All right.
to
So
Maine.
these are laws that are still on the books in Maine, correct?
Maine. Well, you know what? Before we even get into the laws, I
Yeah.
was just reading some really unusual facts about Maine. That,
So you want to do the facts after the laws?
Oh,
Let's do that.
Could
Let's
do that.
Let's
We
do.
can do the
Why? You got
facts
somewhere to
after
go? You got something to do?
Okay, so in Maine,
Yes.
Ray, it's
Yes.
illegal to step out of an airplane once it's in flight. I hope that's in every state.
What? Why does that have to be a law, for Christ's sakes? I mean, if that's not common
Illegal.
sense, illegal.
Illegal. They're going to arrest you if they can find the body.
Right. They're going to arrest the pieces of you. If, that's obviously, if you just step out without a chute and you're not over water, you're going to die.
Wow.
So what's the point? And you realize at some point, some idiot did this.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this
That's
is
a good
just
one.
this is just
Yeah.
sad because holiday season's coming and this
Yeah.
law just hurts because apparently
Is it a buzzkill?
in Maine
Yeah.
you can get a fine if your holiday lights are left on after January 14th. That's the cutoff date. They go around.
Scrooge?
They really.
Scrooge is alive and well in Maine.
Christmas is over for you. All right.
Jeez.
January 15th, you're getting charged.
Wow. Unbelievable.
No, and what's really kind of crazy is that it's cold
Yeah.
in Maine. So
Yeah.
what if it's like it's really cold and you don't want to go out there and take the lights down?
You're going to
you know?
jail. You're going to jail, sucker.
It's ridiculous. Okay, so
Yeah.
in Augusta, Maine,
Yeah.
it is illegal to go down the street playing the violin.
How is this hurting anyone? Explain this to me.
No fiddler on the roof there.
No fiddler no fiddler in the road. No, you can't fiddle in the road. Okay. All right.
Whoa, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Well.
Hey,
Fiddle
Ray,
wherever
if you
you
live
can.
in Rumford, Maine.
Rumford. Okay.
Yes, if you live in Rumford, Maine, remember that it is illegal to bite your landlord. Must have been a problem.
So if he goes bite me, you basically cannot take him up on it.
Or if
you're
he's
going to go to jail.
or if you tell him friggin' the washer dryer broke
Yeah.
down, he says
Right.
that's your problem.
Hey,
Then
Yeah. You can't bite him.
you can't fight him, right?
What if you're a vampire? You just can't help yourself. Your
Speaking
Honor,
of
I swear.
vampires, speaking
Yes.
of vampires, in
Yes.
Wells, Maine, okay, you may not place an advertisement in a cemetery.
Well, that's just common sense.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Well, obviously, it's just for the living that come to visit are going to see it. The dead people could care less what you're advertising, unless you're advertising air-conditioned coffins. For crying out loud!
All right, this is
Wow.
ridiculous. Okay,
What, the others haven't been?
in Waterville, Maine, Ray, it's illegal,
Yeah.
Ray, to blow your
do
nose
that all
in
the time.
public.
Oh, really? You can't blow your nose in public?
Nope.
Wow. Boy, talk about a fascist state, for crying out loud. You can't blow your nose. You can't fiddle in the road. You can't advertise, for for lawyers in the cemetery. Boy, I tell you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
In Maine is apparently in Biddeford, Bidde Ford, Biddeford, Maine. It's illegal to roller skate on the sidewalk. There must have been some problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I can
Let's
think.
get on the sidewalk. Yeah.
And
That's in a lot of places. No, really. There's a lot of places you cannot roller skate on the sidewalk because that's normally.
Well, you know what? Maybe that could be a good law. That could be a good law.
That's a good law.
And this
because,
one, I guess, if they're angry in Wells, Maine, you cannot pet a deer, especially if he's got like an angry face.
you can't pet a deer.
No.
How many deer come up to you in Maine looking to be pet? That's what you have to think.
Can you pet your deer?
That you can do. Oh, dear, come here. I'm going to pet you. But a wild deer, you're not allowed to pet.
Well, I don't know if I want to.
Why not? What's the worst it could do? It's not going to bite you. It's not. It's not carnivore. So it's not going to bite you. I think there are some animals that enjoy being, having a human touch.
Yeah.
So
but Maine,
you're not allowed to. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maine is just a buzzkill. I got to tell you. It's
no
wonder
writer came from Maine, right?
It's no wonder Stephen King wrote all those wacky stories.
Well, speaking of Stephen
lives.
King, talking about some facts about Maine.
Okay.
Did you know that before Stephen King was a writer, he was actually a teacher?
Yes, I did know. I did know that. Yes, I did.
Yeah. Does any of his books have like a teacher as a
yes?
That
yes,
makes
some.
sense. Yeah.
Yes, some do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maine has the least expensive average car insurance. Good to know. In the whole country. How'd you know?
Really? I find that interesting because I'm sure the amount of snowfall they get is probably some of the highest, but yet their insurance is the lowest.
Yeah. Speaking of snowfall, Maine is the second coldest.
There you go.
State. I would have thought they were the first, but I don't.
No.
It doesn't tell me what the first is. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the first?
I'm thinking, Wisconsin?
Nope, more north.
What more north? Minnesota?
Nope.
North Dakota.
Go outside the country.
Oh, outside the country?
I know.
Then it's not part of our country anymore.
It is. Hey, wait a minute. We got two places that are outside of our country that are still part of our country.
That are the coldest?
Yes.
Alaska.
North. Yes, there you
Alaska.
go. I don't know Alaska.
Alaska.
I don't know Alaska.
Would you ask her?
Alaska.
All right.
Did you know that Maine sees America's first sunrise? Well, yeah, that would rises in the east.
That means they must be the furthest east, probably even further than the giant penis of America, Florida.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
It would take 9 years to visit all of Maine's islands. Holy crap. I had no idea. Maine, which I didn't realize. I didn't know this. Apparently, Maine has 3,166 islands. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
I would never. You know what? I never really took a good look at Maine to realize that it's got a lot of
who does? I mean, who does?
Maine is supposed to be a great place to live.
It's what I hear.
Yeah.
If you like the cold.
Unfortunately, although they were the first state to ban alcohol during Prohibition. So. One last great fact is apparently in Freeport, Maine, outside the LL Bean store, there's a giant boot that is an actual size. Ray, you got to look it up. It's
a boot.
Oh, it's big. It's size
a giant
410.
Boot.
Right.
It's a giant boot.
Right. So if a giant ever comes, he's got at least
Yeah.
1 foot in the boot.
I hear there's an old woman who lives in that boot,
Yes.
and she's got so many kids she doesn't know what to do.
I don't know what to do with you. I think it's time to say goodbye. That's what.
Say
we gotta
goodbye.
do. All right.
right.
Until next week, or whenever the next show is going to be.
Right.
I'm going to say thanks for listening, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed our show.
And I'm
You got
going to say
anything?
be good to each other out there.
And there you go. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care.
Please check out our website, pullyourselftopieces.com.
That's right.
And you can subscribe to the show in Google and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Stitcher, and YouTube, or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode.
And if you enjoy our show, don't forget to give us a high rating.
And remember to tell your friends about the show.
Thanks for listening to our show, and thank you to freesounds.org and Gottlieb, Audio Mirage, Plastabrain, Cognito Perceptu, FK Prod, Mirage Taser, Shadow Wisp, DBoss, Viku Seru, Intra Environmental Sound Project, Julian Nicholas, Carmelo Mike, G Kill Hour, 140178 Sound, CMU Sound Design, Alan Mchi, Der Super Anton, Eric H2000, Bulbastray, FK Phantom, Ultra Dust, Ada Records, Stuart Colborn, Debroid, Cubidup, GJ, Syntax Seed, Inspector J, Astounded, Madge 061785, Just Invoke, Short Record, Lorenzo Sue, and I'm Mackenzie. CreativeCommons.org/licenses/by/3.0/legal code.